Welcome to the Disruptor Network podcast.
Welcome back to the Disruptors Network podcast. We have a really, really good guest today, and I'm interested to hear her story. Her name is Saba Ali. She's an entrepreneur, business coach, and two-time TEDx speaker, which is great. She was a TEDx speaker at 21 years old, so I'm interested to hear what that story is about. She's also an author and is on a mission to create unforgettable lives. She's best known for her branding work, and she's assisted hundreds of passionate CEOs clarify their brand message, marketing strategy, and sales process to create an unforgettable brand. So she's got a lot to talk about. She's going to definitely help us with social media content and how she's helped other people push their content to make a brand and build business and bring business to them. So let's get to it. Saba Ali.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Welcome back to the Disruptors Network, and we have Saba Ali. And Saba, I just gave you a background on what you've done at a young age, and I congratulate you. You have some awesome accomplishments, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I so appreciate that. It's going to be a great show.
Thank you. So, you've done some great things already, right? You've been on TED stages twice, and you've written a book, and you've coached, large companies on how to build their brand. How do you motivate yourself daily?
Oh, this is such a great question. And it's so funny you asked me, because this morning when I was actually getting ready, I was thinking about that exact same question.
How do I motivate
you
myself
read my
today?
mind. So I love that question. So when people ask me that, the first thing that pops into mind always is my 15-year-old self. So my story back when I was 15, my mom passed away when I was 15. I was in a toxic 4-year relationship in high school, and I didn't really see a future for myself. And it wasn't until college when I actually met one of my mentors who got me into entrepreneurship, starting to build my brand online, create content on social media, and of course, build my company. So for me, the days when I'm like, I don't feel like waking up in the morning, going to work out, because I wake up at like 5:30 a.m. to go work out. When I feel like not doing that, and even sometimes not doing like interviews and even talking to my clients, I'm like, okay, why did I even ever get started in my business? And it always stems back to my younger self and needing someone like me to show up online and help that person shift their current situation, their reality that might not be so great, into this new goal, this destination, the reality that they do want to be living in. So for me, like, I don't thrive off of even just like motivation and inspiration watching videos. I thrive off of that deeper meaning.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good motivator though, that you feel like you have a responsibility every single day and it keeps you accountable. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned this, so I'm going to jump to this question because I had it for you, because I know that you mentioned mentors a lot, right? And I think mentors are super important to get you to another step. How would you suggest to choose a mentor, or what's worked in the past for you, and either mentoring others or choosing mentors for yourself?
Totally. I've invested a lot of money into mentorships, coaches, and programs. And from all of them, like, I always learn something. But early on in my career, when I was really like starting and scaling my business, I invested into mentors who had amazing results, but I didn't really like vibe with them. Like, I wouldn't live the lifestyle that they're living. Some of their values and missions just weren't aligned with me. But of course, they got really good, monetary results for themselves and for their clients. Soon after that, I realized, for me, I'm the type of person who's very intuitive. I'm very empathetic, but at the same time, I'm like that tough love coach. And I need somebody who's also that same type of person. They're living that lifestyle. I also have built my business 100% organically. I don't do that like hardcore selling, cold reach out type of game anymore. But earlier on, that's what I learned from my coaches. And it got to a point where I scaled my business to high multiple six figures, and I burned out. I didn't like how I built my business a few years ago. So I completely changed everything, right? So I think the main thing that you want to take a look at is not just the results that they're getting their clients. I mean, that tells you the framework that they're teaching works, but the results the clients are getting is more about them versus the actual mentor or coach. So I take a look at, okay, how much are they working? Do they have a good family life balance? What do their true values look like? Like, what are they posting on social media? So it's not just what are they going to be teaching me, but how are they even holding space in their own life?
That's awesome. Yeah, that and I think that's really important what you said, that it's got to be something that a great mentor for somebody else may not be a great mentor for you, and their
Right.
values have to kind of match up. So I think that's really amazing advice. How do you push yourself through? And I heard you say this, and I'll start with this actually. I heard you say you used to be painfully shy, right? And you couldn't
Yeah.
do certain things, and then you were on a TEDx stage at 21, which is very that's a hard thing to overcome, right? So how do you push yourself through when you are feeling uncomfortable and you don't want to continue with going down the road of that task, right? Like how do you, because I know being uncomfortable is what growth is, but how do you push yourself to get through that part of it?
Think less about yourself and think more about the person on the other side. So for me, when I spoke on TEDx stage, prior to that, I had spoke on other stages too. It was very scary every time I would step foot on a stage because I was only thinking about myself. I'm like, okay, what if I mess up? What if I
Yeah.
trip? What if I stumble over my words? So like 99.9% of the time when we're shy, when we're afraid, when we have fear and doubts, it's about ourselves. The minute that we can shift our perspective and really think about the people in the audience, our clients, it relieves the pressure. So for me, like in my early years when I was 19, 20, 21 in college, like I did the most like ridiculous things to just get outside of my comfort zone. Like I would do, like I did a kindness challenge where for like 21 days straight, I'd go out to random people and like hand them flowers and roses and give them compliments. And it was solely because I just wanted to get comfortable and having more of a conversation and being fun and free in my own self. When I see people trying to even create content online, they start to mold themselves into this image that they think they need to be and become. And instead of being just themselves and being comfortable, it just adds more anxiety and more pressure. So like for me, my approach is very much so like, just do it. Don't even think about it. And after that, it was always just so fun.
That's really cool. That's a really good hack as far as, because you're right. Because when you're having the anxiety, it's usually about you. It's not about everybody else. So it's just to
Yeah.
kind of think about. That's awesome. What would you say at this point? And I've mentioned a couple things, and so have you. But maybe it's something completely different. What has been your tipping point so far in your career, and how has it changed your daily activities? Like, so what do you think has been something that's really shaken up what your career has been so far, and how does it change what you do daily?
Yeah. In terms of, are you talking about in terms of like personally what I do daily or in my business?
I would say business.
Okay. Yeah. So in my business from day one, even before I ever got started in selling a product online, it has solely been content and posting content on social media. And so funny, I think we're doing this interview like literally at the perfect time because I just posted a piece of content earlier this week or late last week talking about I had built a brand and posted content online for years before I ever even sold a product. So for me, I'm the type of person where like I'm a real content creator. Like I will be posting content regardless of if I'm even ever selling anything, solely because I love to document, share my story, and I still love to provide value for my audience. So for me, that's how people find me. And that's how I get business and clients is through content. Now, since day one, when I was 19 years old in college, of course, like I wasn't teaching people how to build a business because I wasn't doing that quite yet. So back then I would focus more on, how to gain confidence, how to even create content online, how to grow an audience, how to like network and connect with other people. So a lot of the times when people look at individuals like you and I, they're like, okay, they already have a really good skill and expertise. They already know what to create content on. I don't even know where to start and where to begin. So I always tell my clients is like, what have you already done in your life? Like, what is something that comes so natural to you that you can talk to your best friend about sitting on the couch that you can just turn around and create a piece of content on, right? It's like sometimes people spend hours sitting on their laptop trying to think about what are the perfect words I can use to produce a piece of content. I always say like couch scenario. Think about like if you're sitting on the couch with your best friend or husband, wife, like how would you talk to them? that's the most natural way that you can produce content. But yeah, overall, like content, that's the number one thing that's been so
Helping you.
consistent in my life and business. So
You're making this very easy for me because my next question was based around that. So you're kind of leading me into the next question. So you're doing great.
we're so aligned here. I love it.
You're reading my mind. So what do you think so far with your content? And you answered some of that last question, but for social media, what strategy do you think has helped you the most? And on what, and this is the other thing, on what platform? Because I know that Instagram is the best platform for me, but for some people it's LinkedIn, for some people it's Facebook, and TikTok obviously is a huge content creator medium at this point. So what's worked best for you, and what strategy do you think is the easiest to understand and implement?
For sure. So yeah, just like you, Ralph, for me, Instagram has been my number one since day one, and Facebook. I mean, I basically post the exact same thing on both social media platforms. I don't believe you need to produce different type of content each one. I feel like you can repurpose it. But for me, I found on Instagram, I attract the most inbound clients that are like just ready to invest, like no nurturing, no back and forth. They're just like, give me the link, I'm ready. And for the longest time, I was like, okay, like what about Instagram makes it that way for people to just reach out and buy, right? So when it comes to content, when I look at the different social media platforms, like Facebook versus Instagram, I feel like Facebook, there's a lot going on. There's like groups, there's ads, like you can play games on there, there's marketplace, like there's so much. And on Instagram, it's just you, it's just your profile. And I like to say, I treat my Instagram and like my Instagram stories like my own reality TV show, right? It's like people can see the behind the scenes of Saba and what she's doing in her life. And for me with content, it's like, people know me as me. They don't know me as a business coach. And that is what makes content sell versus content that's boring, right? It's like, if you're just talking about what your offers are, and even just what you teach and value all the time, that's great. But there's also millions of other people that are probably teaching the exact same thing. However, there is only one you, right? You only have one story. You only have, one expertise, you only have one habit, like you're only one person, right? So people know me in my audience that I wake up every single morning, they're waiting for my gym selfie, they know I go get my nails done, they know I'm a total foodie and I love ice cream, like they know things about me that like a typical business coach wouldn't be talking about on social media. So I feel like that really is what builds an unforgettable brand online, and what will diversify you from everybody else that's doing the exact same thing as you are.
I agree completely. I think that I always try to tell people that you should be not creating content, but you should be documenting. Just document who you are every single day. People want reality TV. That's been proven over and over again, I think now more than ever. So that's great advice. What would you say is next, right? So now we're in an economy that's a little bit crazy, and in markets that are a little bit crazy. And what are you looking to for your future over the next few years? And like, where do you think you take your brand or your business and your coaching over the next few years?
Totally. So I just made a post yesterday on my Facebook that I'm planning my first ever in-person retreat later this year.
Oh, very cool.
That I'm so excited about. So what a lot of people also don't know is for the first few years when I was 19, 20 years old, when I was actually working alongside my mentor in his company, I helped put on mastermind retreats, events, like literally all across the country. So I know how to do it step by step. And when I actually moved to Florida 2 years ago, I'm originally from Iowa, that's what I wanted to do. But of course, COVID hit right when I moved. So I wasn't able to do that, unfortunately. So this year, just everything aligned. And I'm so excited to start bringing my coaching more in person. And for me, like, once again, my unforgettable brand, it started before I ever got started in coaching. I see it even going into like products. I love to journal, right? I love to meditate. I record my own meditations. I want to create my own journal. So I see it becoming much more of a transformational brand that's not just for entrepreneurs, just for coaches, just for consultants online, but for people who actually want to shift their life, right? When I was 15 years old, like I was always entrepreneurial, but I was going through something so much deeper than just learning how to create content online and how to sell my products. So for me, every time someone asks me like what my 10-year vision is, I see it, but I don't see it clearly because I'm the type of person where opportunities come across and that's when I start to move. So like, if you ask me what's going on this year, I'll tell you I'm going to be doing a retreat later this year.
But and I like that too, because I think that even for me at this point now, I'm always most passionate about what I'm doing in the now.
Yeah.
And that changes over time. But I think if I try to think too far ahead, you're not going to get the best me in doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
You get it. You get it.
yeah, I'm totally with you on that. What is your soundtrack or movie when you need motivation?
Ooh,
So
remember the Titans.
musical film. Oh, that's awesome. All right, good.
Remember the Titans. I love that movie. And I think it's also because like I used to watch it a lot when I was younger. And it just like the vibe and like the ambiance of that movie, it's so much deeper of like a meaning than just like the surface of what we look at, of course, like in that movie. So I think for me, like also like I'm very intuitive. I'm very feminine, clearly, as you can see, but like I lead with my masculine a lot. So even in like the toughest times in my life and my business, when I got out of like the low points in my life, I would do like 2-a-day workouts. Like I would go run, I would physically push myself in order to get over like the mental thing that was blocking me. So for me, I think that's why I love that movie because like it's true physical and mental toughness that they go through in order
That's
to,
awesome.
of course, get to the end and when they win.
I love that movie, and I like how you stated that I'm very feminine, but when I need something like that, I lead with my masculine, and I think
Yeah.
it's a really it gives you a clear picture. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you do daily to feed your brain with either knowledge or motivation or something that kind of pushes you?
I read a lot. You can see my bookshelf that's color
Yeah.
coordinated. So I love reading books. But also every time when I work out every single morning, like I always listen to a podcast show. I love listening to music, but for some reason, like podcast shows in the morning just hit differently. So for me, like every day, that's what I do. And that's how I start off my mornings. One thing that I also do before anything when I wake up in the morning is I actually have a recording of myself talking in real time of what my life is going to look like 6 months from now. So this is something that I've done for over a year. I think like, honestly, it's like a 1 or 2 minute recording. I put on my AirPods literally the moment that I wake up. And it really just helps me reprogram my mind and how I want my day to look like. So I've done it for so long, and that just really helps me get into the mood.
That's really cool. I really like that a lot. That's cool. That's the first time I've heard that. I like that a lot. That's a good practice.
Yeah.
I'm the same, by the way. I'm a book and a podcast person in the morning. I usually do that while I exercise the same way. Is there a book and or a podcast that you recommend?
So a book that comes to mind that I've read so many times, A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Gikandi.
Okay.
The best book. I love it. It talks about like, that's really about mindset, law of attraction, but that's the first book that I found that really teaches you like how it works. All the other one tells you like what it is, but it really dives deep into the how. So that's really good for shifting money beliefs. And then in terms of podcast, I love listening to Tom Bilyeu, Lisa Bilyeu. That's what I was listening to this morning.
Good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like one of my go-tos.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I like both of them. So in closing, I'm gonna give you something that's a concept that I really truly believe in, and then I want to ask about yours. So I have a book coming out in November. The ebook's coming in July, but it's called The Growth Trap. And The Growth Trap is something that I believe is that from the ages of infancy to about 18, we kind of grow naturally. You know, we get bigger, we get stronger, we get smarter, we get more intuitive to the world kind of naturally. We don't have to do a lot to get there, right? It's a natural progress of our life, but we get to a point in life where if we don't force growth, it doesn't happen. You know, 18, 19, 20, 21, like when you got in college and you were handing out flowers around campus, like that was you forcing growth, in my opinion, right? So we get to a point where we have to get ourselves uncomfortable and force growth. And if we don't, we kind of get caught in this growth trap, right? So can you tell me a growth trap that has stopped you and how you've gotten past it?
Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit, and this was honestly probably about 18 months ago now. This was year. So I got to a point in my business where I was making like great money. I had amazing clients, amazing team. But once again, like I had built my business to a point where it just wasn't fun for me to wake up every single morning and do my business. It was in a very like hustle, burnout type of way. And at that moment, honestly, like I got to a point in my business where I was like, what do I do now? Because the hardest thing is changing something in your life, in your business, when you know it's working really well, but it's not aligned to you anymore. And this goes for anything, not just business. This can be in a relationship. It's going well, but just not aligned to you anymore. Right. So that's the moment where I honestly, like I actually took I took a month and I went to Chicago literally by myself. I was like, I told my boyfriend, hey, I just need like a month to myself to try and figure out what I want to do. He's like, okay, like go do what you have to do. And that month, I will tell you, Ralph, I worked probably like 3 hours a day. I had my highest revenue cash month that year or that month for the year. And I just felt so free. And it was because I wasn't doing like what I had done in my business up until then. Like I had released all expectation, and it gave the opportunity to also design my business and my life and how I actually wanted it to look like. So like the moral of the story of all of that is, if there is something that you don't like in your business in your life, first of all, you can pause and you can relax and take time off to try and figure out what that looks like for you. I feel like in this entrepreneurship society, it's like go, go, go all the time. But if you don't slow down, you'll get to a point where I did, where everything was working, but I wasn't happy, right? Like money wasn't a motivator anymore. And even like my clients, I love them, but I couldn't show up as my highest self because I just felt so disaligned, right? So even just taking, like for me, I did a month, but you could do it even for a weekend, take some time off and just reconnect back to yourself and see what it is that you truly want to do. And from there, the scariest thing was just shifting my entire business model. Like I truly shifted every single thing. My revenue dipped. I'm always very transparent, but like now, like fast forward a year and a half later, like I'm just so happy I did it.
Yeah,
I'm so happy I did it.
I think there's so many value points in that. I think, first of all, sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward. And second of all, that is the true definition of a growth trap. Like you felt you had gotten to a point where you were at a place where you weren't growing anymore, or you weren't happy with how you were growing. So you changed courses, and sometimes that's awesome. And I commend you, because most people just grind through it, right? And they never, and then they wake up 3 years later and they're like, what have I done with all my time? So that's awesome. I think you're awesome. Thank you so much for being on with us today. Where is the best place for people to connect with you, whether it's for coaching or just to talk to you? Where's the best place to connect with you?
Totally. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I loved your questions. I know before we got on, you said that you were going to have specific different questions. So I love it. It was amazing. The best place that you can find and connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is at the Saba Ali. I give away tons of amazing value. Feel free to connect with me, send me a message. But yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Awesome. And you're awesome. And you definitely should take out of social media. It's great. And I hope to see more of you in the future.
Yes, of course. Thank you again.